Imagine Europe in the 1800s. It's a time of empires and revolutions. But for Jewish communities across the continent, it's also a time of intense persecution. They face discrimination, violence, and pogroms, organized massacres. It's in this climate of fear and uncertainty that Zionism emerges. At its core, Zionism is a political movement. It's driven by a simple yet powerful idea: the need for a Jewish homeland. Think of it as a safe haven, a place where Jews could finally be free from persecution. This wasn't just about escaping danger, it was about self-determination, about Jews having control over their own destiny. This idea resonated deeply. For centuries, Jews had faced exile and discrimination. They yearned for a place to call their own. Zionism offered a solution, a vision of a future where Jews could live in peace and security. The movement gained momentum quickly, spreading throughout Europe and beyond. Zionist leaders like Theodor Herzl rallied support for their cause. They argued that only a Jewish state could guarantee the safety and survival of the Jewish people. Their message struck a chord, and the seeds of a nation were sown. To understand the urgency behind Zionism, we need to look back at Jewish history. For centuries, Jewish communities across Europe and the Middle East faced systematic persecution. They were often treated as outsiders, denied basic rights, and subjected to violence. The Spanish Inquisition, with its forced conversions and expulsions, is one chilling example. But the persecution wasn't limited to one place or time. Across Europe, Jews were often blamed for economic woes, social ills, and even plagues. This deep-seated anti-Semitism culminated in the Holocaust, the Nazi genocide that claimed the lives of 6 million Jews. The horrors of the Holocaust shook the world and served as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked hatred. For Zionists, the Holocaust was the ultimate justification for their cause. It proved that Jews were not safe in a world rife with anti-Semitism. They argued that only a Jewish state with its own army and the ability to defend itself could prevent such atrocities from happening again. In 1947, the United Nations voted to partition Palestine, then under British control, into 2 states, one Jewish, one Arab. This decision was met with mixed reactions. For Zionists, it was a dream come true, a culmination of decades of struggle. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel. This momentous event marked the fulfillment of a long-cherished Zionist goal, but it also ignited a conflict that continues to this day. The creation of Israel came at a cost. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced from their homes during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This mass displacement, known as the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe, remains a deeply sensitive issue. The war ended in 1949 with Israel's victory, but it left behind a legacy of mistrust and animosity. The Palestinian refugee crisis, the status of Jerusalem, and the expansion of Israeli settlements became major points of contention. The creation of Israel had a profound impact on the Palestinian people. Many were forced to flee their homes, becoming refugees in neighboring countries. Those who remained faced discrimination and displacement as Israel expanded its territory. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is complex, with narratives of loss and suffering on both sides. Palestinians argue that they were dispossessed of their land and denied their right to self-determination. They point to ongoing occupation, the expansion of Israeli settlements, and the restrictions on their movement and freedoms. Israel, on the other hand, cites security concerns and its right to exist as a Jewish state. It argues that it has made numerous concessions for peace, but that Palestinian leaders have refused to recognize its right to exist. The conflict has gone through numerous cycles of violence and fragile peace agreements. The Oslo Accords in the 1990s offered a glimmer of hope, but the path to a lasting solution remains elusive. In recent years, the Zionist movement has faced increasing scrutiny and criticism. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with its ongoing violence and human rights concerns, has fueled anti-Zionist sentiment globally. 2024 was a particularly challenging year. Israel faced security threats from Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. The conflict escalated, resulting in civilian casualties and widespread condemnation. These events further polarized the debate around Israel and Zionism. Critics accused Israel of using disproportionate force and violating international law. They argued that the occupation of Palestinian territories was the root cause of the violence. Zionist groups, however, defended Israel's actions as self-defense. They pointed to rocket attacks from Gaza and Hezbollah's threats to Israel's security. The events of 2024 highlighted the complex geopolitical realities facing Israel and the challenges of navigating a volatile region. The debate around Zionism is often polarized, with strongly held views on both sides. Understanding these perspectives is crucial to grasping the complexities of the issue. For Zionists, the movement represents Jewish self-determination and survival. They argue that Israel's existence is a testament to the resilience of the Jewish people after centuries of persecution. Zionists often emphasize Israel's achievements in technology, medicine, and democracy. They view criticism of Israel as biased and rooted in anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionists, on the other hand, view Zionism as a colonial project built on the displacement of Palestinians. They argue that Israel's policies amount to apartheid and that the occupation is illegal and immoral. Anti-Zionists often draw parallels between the Palestinian struggle for freedom and other historical movements against colonialism and oppression. It's important to note that not all criticism of Israel or its policies is inherently anti-Semitic. Criticizing the actions of a government is different from harboring prejudice against an entire group of people. The debate around Zionism extends beyond the Middle East, intersecting with other social and political movements. One such intersection is with the reproductive justice movement in the United States. Some reproductive justice advocates argue that the rhetoric and tactics used to restrict abortion rights in the US mirror those used to justify the occupation of Palestinian territories. They point to the language of protecting life and traditional values used by both anti-abortion and pro-settlement groups. This intersection has sparked controversy, with some accusing reproductive justice advocates of anti-Semitism. Others, however, see it as a legitimate critique of power dynamics and the ways in which different forms of oppression can be interconnected. The Zionist movement also plays a significant role in US politics. The US has been a staunch ally of Israel since its inception, providing military aid and diplomatic support. This support has been consistent across administrations, though the level of engagement has varied. As we look to the future, the Zionist movement faces a number of challenges. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unresolved with no easy solutions in sight. The growth of the boycott, divestment and sanctions (BDS) movement, which seeks to pressure Israel economically and politically, poses another challenge. Zionist organizations are grappling with how to address these challenges while maintaining support for Israel. They are engaging in advocacy efforts, promoting dialogue and working to combat anti-Semitism. However, the path forward remains uncertain. The outcome of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will have a significant impact on the future of Zionism. A lasting peace agreement could ease tensions and create a more conducive environment for dialogue and understanding. However, continued conflict and violence will likely further polarize the debate and fuel anti-Zionist sentiment. The Zionist movement is a product of history shaped by both triumph and tragedy. Understanding its origins, goals, and the controversies surrounding it is essential for navigating the complex realities of the Middle East. It's important to approach this topic with sensitivity and nuance. There are legitimate grievances and narratives of suffering on both sides of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Reducing this complex issue to simplistic narratives or resorting to hateful rhetoric only serves to deepen divisions. Ultimately, the path forward requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to engage in difficult conversations. Only through dialogue and a commitment to peace can we hope to create a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can live in security and dignity.